In an industry stuffed with marketing bullshit, empty promises, and shiny-suited liars, one woman's had enough. She knows what it's like to have the wrong clients, no money, and no time for fun. But she also knows how to fix it. And on the Business for Superheroes show, she promises to tell the down and dirty truth about business, sales, and running away with the circus. Here's your host, Vicky Fraser.
Hello and welcome to the Business for Superheroes show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Hello. It seems like quite a long time since we've recorded a podcast.
It's been quite a long time since we recorded a podcast. That's why.
Yeah. Did a great interview last week with Lucy Cohen and now I'm back with you. And we are drinking gin and tonic. We're drinking the Spirit of Masham Dry Yorkshire Gin.
Masham.
No, it's Masham. If you say Masham in Masham, then Yorkshire people will yell at you.
Okay. Do we have a Yorkshire listener?
I'm sure we have many Yorkshire listeners.
Do you think?
Yeah. But this gin is great. This gin, Misty bought me this gin. Thank you, Misty.
Thanks, Misty.
Misty and Berto, because they've been in the UK for the past few weeks doing our Breaking Bread Mastermind, which was completely awesome, wasn't it? In fact, have we done a podcast even since the Mastermind?
I'm not even sure we have.
We should maybe talk about that a bit because, I mean, it was brilliant, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I didn't see the technical side of it, but the fun social side of it was ace.
Yeah, and people, we've had comments like life-changing and, just like, it's like I've been upgraded. It's like I've had an upgrade. It's like I've leveled up.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you and Berto in the background they were our pit crew. And it couldn't have happened without you guys.
Yeah.
Anyway, the gin is a handcrafted small batch production using the London dry gin method, made in a traditional copper alembic still at our distillery in Masham. Botanicals come from our very own innovative masala chai, tea, spices and Australian eucalyptus honey with the delicate use of hops to give a distinctive and unique experience, which is the Spirit of Masham. That was far too long a sentence. It's really nice, and I'm really surprised because it tastes kind of like aniseed, doesn't it?
It is a little bit aniseedy.
And I do not like aniseed. I hate licorice, do not like aniseed, but I really like this gin. Cheers. Chin chin.
Cheers. Very nice.
Yeah, I've now got bits of lemon in my mouth. Okay, so we're back to body language again.
Good Lord, is that where we left off?
Yeah, many, many years ago.
I can't speak.
Yeah. So, look, I've even got in my notes Breaking Bread review. So I was actually inadvertently following them. Okay, so the previous podcast, which is many moons ago, we were talking about body language and how much communication is actually non-verbal.
Right. Yes.
And we had a row.
We had that little disagreement where you said
I was right and you were wrong.
Well,
and you should just sit there in your wrongness and be wrong.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Anyway, quick recap.
Vicky was wrong.
Joe was wrong, Vicky was right, and Joe's just going to give us a quick recap on on how to projecting confidence with your body language.
Okay, so we were talking about sitting up straight, leaning in, using gestures because they make you look confident and interesting. Laugh, smile, and nod when you're listening to other people because it proves that you're there and you're paying attention. Do it appropriately though. Don't overuse people's name, and don't stare into their eyes because you've been on a course that told you to stare into their eyes all the time because you'll freak people out.
Yeah, we were talking about appropriate eye contact and awkward eye contact.
Which I think if you don't know what appropriate eye contact is, it's a very difficult thing to know.
It is a very difficult thing to know because I really struggle with this.
It's either clearly obvious or it's not.
Yeah, because I'm actually very socially awkward and I feel very awkward in most social situations and I get social anxiety. Like we were at the cinema, weren't we, on Saturday night, and we got there and we were kind of buying popcorn and stuff, and I turned around and there was Annie and Kieran and a couple of other friends from the Pole Studio, and I was like, I don't know what to do now because we have come out separately and and I was like, do I go say hello? Well, I can't ignore them because that's really rude. And so I had this big thing in my head where I was just like, so I just went over and said, hi, I've just come over to be socially awkward for a second and just be like, hi. And yes.
And it was fine.
It was fine. Of course it was fine.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, Annie. So yes, that was all very good. But yeah, if you don't know, if you are slightly socially awkward or, you get a bit anxious about talking to people and what the norms are and how you're supposed to behave, because I struggle with the eye contact thing because sometimes I think, I need to, not look away. And you do look away when you're thinking of what to say, and that's natural.
Mm-hmm.
But I always think I try and give really good eye contact to people if I'm listening to them.
Yes.
And it's not so important if you're speaking.
But yeah, it's a tough thing to do, because either you spend all your time trying to work out what the correct amount of eye contact is, and therefore lose all of your confidence and enjoyment because you're busy.
I miss what they're saying.
You're like counting to 5 before you look away or something.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
I've been known to do that.
It's going to be hard work. or you get it right.
Yeah.
Which is great. But yeah, I don't really know what the technique is for getting it right if you don't know how to get it right.
I know, it's really funny. I'm actually pushing the boundaries of this in my pole competition routine. I've put Annie and I have put a new routine together for me for the competition. And at the beginning, I make extremely awkward eye contact with one of the judges for far too long whilst doing something a bit odd. And it's just anyway. Also going to do similar in my Charlie Chaplin burlesque striptease routine.
You're what now?
I'm performing at Ludlow Pride on the 23rd of June, along with a whole bunch of other really cool people from Pure Studios.
Is there something you're not telling me?
And we are putting a whole load of different acts on. And Dan and Ed asked me if I would do a burlesque striptease. And I was like, yeah, sure, I haven't done that for a while, but let's do it. And they were like, would you do it with moustaches? And I was like, of course I will. Because they were like, who could we ask to do this? Vicky, we can ask Vicky to do this. Because I knew I'd say yes. Anyway, moving on. So, awkward eye contact.
Good.
Whilst wearing a moustache and performing a striptease.
Yes, not your normal business day, I guess, for most people.
But we wanted to go on to probably more useful tips for people who are, wondering about body language and, body language technique and how to stand and all the rest of it. So one of my pet hates in all the world when I first meet somebody is a limp handshake.
One of those fingertip handshakes.
Oh, yeah, a fingertip handshake. Oh, yeah. We're just demonstrating for the purposes of radio right now. Yeah. But it's awful. Develop a strong, firm handshake. Practice with people. Because I think quite often I'll meet people, and this is especially true of young people that I've met recently. So, this is probably a sweeping generalisation, but I'm just anecdotally. Whenever I've met somebody who is a teenager or very young, and I understand why, I will quite often get like a limp fish handshake, and it's like they can't wait to take their hand away. Work on it, practice. It takes, like everything else, practice to develop a decent handshake, don't you think?
I suppose it must. I don't remember practicing decent handshakes, but I don't know, I think I've got one.
I think, I don't shake hands with you very often, so maybe we should shake hands once a day. Let's do it now. How do you do?
How do you do?
But yeah, practice your handshakes. And if you're listening and you're a teenager and you're feeling not very confident and you worry about meeting people, really practice this with somebody, because it's that first impression. A limp handshake just says, please don't hurt me. It says, please don't hurt me. Please don't see me. Please don't notice me. And I totally understand where it's coming from, but you really don't want that impression to be given off if you're trying to, not trying to impress somebody, but, if you're trying to be, if you're at a job interview or something, it's absolutely the worst thing you can do, because you can never take a first impression back. And, you can build a reputation and you can get to know people later. But for something like a job interview or, a client proposal, you're never going to get that second chance, because, that's the only chance you get. And we do judge a book by its cover, and we do judge people by those first impressions. So it's super important. But the converse of that, the opposite side of that coin, I suppose, is the paw crusher. Yes. Which I think is symptomatic of small man syndrome.
I don't know. I think it's also symptomatic of like bricklayers. I think if you spend all day, every day doing lots of physical stuff with your hands specifically, then you end up with a big handshake.
Well, yeah, but unless you're very unself-aware, you're not going to crush somebody's hand just because you've got strong hands.
And not philosophically engaged bricklayer. There's not going to be many of those around, are there?
Oh my God. I can't believe you just said that. God. Joe, I'm ashamed of you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bricklayers everywhere.
You bloody should be. Some of the most thoughtful people I've met have been people who you traditionally might not think are in that kind of a role. Let's take, for example, Alex. Alex the anti-meathead. He's a bodybuilder. Really smart lad. very cerebral, totally not what you would expect. So I think you should take that back.
What?
Anyway.
So you're part-time bricklayer?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, I don't like. If somebody shakes my hand with a limp fish handshake, then my first impression of them is not going to be good. I'm just going to be like, oh, really? I don't feel confident in whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing for me.
Yeah, it does do damage, doesn't it?
It does.
Rubbish handshake.
Yeah, and for the paw crushers, I just think you've got a massive inferiority complex and a chip on your shoulder, and it's something to prove. And ultimately, that makes me think I don't really want to have much to do with you either, because especially because it hurts as well. It's like if I meet somebody for the first time and they try and hurt me, my automatic reaction is to be like, yeah, you can fuck off. I don't really want to spend any time with you. So, if you're feeling insecure, then deal with that before you start shaking hands with people.
Do you go into support with the other hand? Because that must have meaning.
Oh, there's all sorts of stuff about. I don't know enough about handshakes to go into detail. But I do know that limp handshakes and paw crushers are the most common types.
I've heard it said about the rotation thing. If somebody grabs your hand and they turn, which way is it?
If they try turning your palm up so that their palm is down, then that's a dominance thing. Yeah, which maybe. Also makes me laugh.
Or maybe it's just a ritual.
I will fight people when they do that, because because I've heard that, it just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And the other one, if you put your hand on top of somebody's hand, I don't know what that means. I don't know what any of that means. It's probably Masonic. No.
Masonic is where the end of your thumb goes.
How do you know that?
You need to end up behind. It's like a ranking thing on the back of their knuckles. So depending on where your thumb ends up on the back of their knuckles, determines your rank, and you can. If you're both Masons, then you both can work out who's in charge at that point.
I think basically what I would like you to do after listening to this podcast, dear listener, is develop a really cool hip-hop handshake and use that from now on.
Mm.
I am adding a disclaimer that anything that happens as a result of doing that is absolutely naff all to do with me. But, do tell us stories.
Mm.
And if anyone does know about the Masonic handshake, or, if anyone knows any more about handshake conventions, then,
Come on the podcast.
Come on the podcast and we'll talk about handshakes.
Yeah.
Or moustaches. Handshakes. Important. Really important.
Mm-hmm.
You can also use isopraxis.
I noticed this happening quite a lot at work.
Do you?
Yes.
Would you like to explain what isopraxis is?
I don't think it's deliberate on other people's part, but sometimes I do play tunes with it. So the isopraxis is where somebody mirrors your body language.
Yes.
So if you start putting your hands behind your head or whatever, and they start doing it, and then you can, if you your elbows on the table and
clasp
stuff,
your hands,
people
lean on you.
People who are getting on with you will typically do something similar. And
they do, and you're right, it is unconscious. For most people, it is unconscious, because you do tend to mirror people that you like and want to kind of spend more time with, or subconsciously want to impress, and that's totally natural. You can also do it if you want to build trust with somebody. And I think it can be a little bit disingenuous. And the reason I'm kind of talking about all of this stuff is because I want you to also understand what it means when other people are doing it. And so I don't like it when people overuse my name, like you were saying, because it sounds a little bit forced.
Shiny suited salesmen do it.
Yeah, it does sound.
On the course.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit forced. I mean, do use people's names, but not every other sentence, because it just sounds a bit weird. And it's the same with it's the same with mirroring the body language. It's like, don't go overboard with it. But if you really genuinely think that you can help someone, or genuinely want to do business with them, or whatever, and it's coming from a place of, I don't know, honesty, I guess, then
the thing is, I think if you're getting on and you're having fun and you're feeling empathy and you're understanding their problem and you're having a good conversation, then a certain amount of isopraxis
happens.
Just happens.
It does.
Just happens because you're getting on and being sociable.
Yeah. And if that's not something, if you're perhaps, I don't know, if you find it a bit more difficult to pick up on those sorts of social cues, I guess this might be something that you want to work on a little bit. But just don't do it too much, because they'll think you're taking the piss.
Yes, and if they notice you, they might start doing what I do, which is, one hand scratch the knee, the other one stick a finger in your ear, and see how far you can make people go.
Okay, I need you to video that next time that happens. But this is actually like you said, most of it is unconscious
Yes.
or subconscious. And the two most obvious mirror body language things are yawning and smiling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I bet even me just saying the word yawn right now, I bet you're yawning listening to it, or I bet you're stifling a yawn just listening to it. Are you going to yawn? I'm going to yawn.
I'm not going to yawn.
I just yawned.
Yes.
Yes.
I did not.
But yeah, smiles do the same thing. It's almost impossible not to smile at someone if they smile at you.
Yes. And there's loads of them, aren't there? Little nods and sort of blinks sort of synchronise a little
Raised
bit.
eyebrows and...
Yes. Some of the sort of hand gestures and things. There's a lot of it. People do it a lot.
It's really interesting. So, are you yawning right now, listeners? Yawn. Yawn. Okay, I'll stop that. Okay, so here's another one. This is a really good tip, actually, because I automatically do this and then I have to catch myself and stop myself. Crossing your arms and legs. You probably already know that folding your arms is a defensive posture. Joe's folding his arms right now. Joe
had already folded his arms right now.
Yeah. Joe has been folded for a while. But so yeah, and we do it when we're feeling threatened or nervous. And I know that if I'm feeling a bit nervous, I will catch it and I'll be like, oh, you know what? And even just opening yourself out of that folded posture can make you feel better. Mm-hmm. What you do with your body actually affects how your mind works. And it's like, you know, if you're feeling a bit sad, if you smile, it can lift your mood.
If you stop looking defensive, then people might well stop behaving offensively.
Yeah, what was I listening to? I was listening to a podcast the other day, I can't remember which one. And he was talking to someone. Oh, it was the guy, Will Storr, the guy who wrote The Heretics. Mm-hmm. And it's all about, you know, how people can believe... I wish. It's all about how people can believe crazy shit and they're not stupid people. So, you know, flat earthers, some of them are probably stupid, but a lot of them are just, you know, they're not stupid people. So anyway... He's written this book and he's gone around the world and he's kind of talked about it. And when he was with his fiancée was kind of, you know, in a social situation with him. And he was having a conversation with someone. He came away and was just like, that person was really rude. That person was really rude to me. And she was like, well, that's because you were being rude and he was reacting to how you were. And he was just really like defensive and awkward. And he didn't mean to be at all, but that was just how he came off to the other person. And so that's what, you know, made me think, if people will react to you in a certain way, even if you're not aware that you're doing it. So if you have your arms crossed or your legs crossed or something, people will, oh, now you're yawning. It's like delayed empathy. Joe has delayed empathy. Either that or I'm boring him. So yeah, we all do it. We do it when we feel threatened or nervous. We cross our arms, we cross our legs. I do it. It's one of those things that I do when I'm on stage and I'm nervous. I will stand with my legs crossed instead of standing with my legs kind of hip distance apart, which apart from anything else makes me more likely to fall over. And I don't need any help falling over. As an aside, did you know that crossing your arms can help you think?
Crossing your arms can help you think?
Yeah.
Explain?
No. I wrote the notes for this so long ago, I can't remember the explanation. I would imagine it has something to do with maybe distancing yourself from the situation that you're in, like folding your arms and just giving yourself a little bit of space to think.
What?
I don't know. That was Joe yawning again. It's catching up. Are you going to yawn for the number of times that I said yawn?
Maybe.
Okay, I'll stop saying it now. So yeah, if you find yourself giving a talk or in an interview or even just meeting somebody new and you find that you've got your arms or your legs crossed, just unclench.
Okay.
Unclench. Okay. Ooh, personal space. I have a very, very strong sense of my own personal space, and I do not like it being invaded by people I don't know, and sometimes by people I do know. So like, you know, when you're in the queue at the post office and somebody's standing so close behind you, they're almost touching you, I will, because I'm British, I'll turn around and huff at them. And then if they don't take the hint, I'll stretch. And then if they still don't take the hint, I'll get something out of my bag and I accidentally step on their foot.
Yeah, I find taking a step backwards while standing on their foot so they can't get out of the way is entertaining.
Okay, I think we're getting into the realms of assault.
Unless they're a little old lady, in which case, you know, they just need to...
But no, people standing too close behind me in queues, it absolutely drives me crazy. So arm's length away is a good distance. It's like in Dirty Dancing. This is my dance space, and that's your dance space. And you don't invade it. Except for at the end of the dance, when it's getting all sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, stand arm's length away, because otherwise people, like, I will back away from people if they get too close to me.
This is not what somebody who's trying to have a conversation with you is after. Retreating, reversing out of it.
If somebody is retreating or takes a step back, then don't follow them. Just stay where you are, because probably it's nothing. All it is probably that you're a little bit too close. And I guess different people have different senses of personal space, because otherwise people wouldn't stand that close behind you.
I think there's a lot of cultural stuff going on with personal space.
Do you think?
Yes, for sure. I think there are other cultures where personal space is a much smaller thing.
I think you're probably right, but I would always err on the side of caution. And arm's length away. And if you don't know somebody terribly well, don't go in for a hug or a kiss, perhaps, unless let them instigate it if that's going to happen. Because I sometimes am a bit like, oh, okay, we're doing this, okay, and then because I'm socially awkward and British, I just go with it. it's fine. But so yeah, stand arm's length away. Quite often, people will tell you to use the superhero pose.
Now, I saw this TED Talk by Amy Cuddy.
Yes.
And it was all about, occupying space and big superhero poses and stuff that made you feel better and more confident and various sort of, if you've got your feet on the desk and your hands behind your head and you're leaning back, then you're clearly in charge.
Yeah, that also pisses me off. I think it's disrespectful.
But
if I'm in like a meeting or a group and somebody's got leaning back in the chair, and they've got their feet on the desk, and I'm like, dude.
Yes. But if you walk into my office and I got my feet on my desk, then that's
your office.
That's my office.
Yeah. But I think what she was talking about, and I think this has been misunderstood. I think people have listened to or snippets of this talk, or heard a guru online talking about it somewhere, and they're like, I must do the superhero pose when I'm talking to people. Don't do that.
What is so that what that's one arm out to the top and another one on your hip?
No, that's the teapot.
With a
That's the teapot.
What's the superhero pose?
Oh, it's just hands on hips and legs wide apart.
Okay.
And boobs out.
Here's my crotch. Wah!
Here's my boobs.
Okay.
But yeah, I think people have half listened to this advice and then kind of run with it. And for me, that's a bit like manspreading. When you're on a bus or a train and there's some dickhead sitting next to you and he's got his legs about as wide as he can get them, and it's like, I know there's nothing in there that requires that much bloody space, and it just enrages me. And it's just like a pathetic dominance display, and it's also incredibly disrespectful to whoever else is in the carriage with you. So if you're a guy and you do this, stop it right now, because it just makes us want to kick you in the nuts, basically. But yeah, I think the superhero pose in public is the equivalent of manspreading. And it's like, it was in the TED Talk, I think Amy Cuddy was talking about doing it before doing something you're afraid of. Because it's like a power pose. So behind closed doors, it's like, oh, just before you're going to walk on stage or just before you're going to go into the interview, just do that kind of, strong pose, something. And it might not be that, it might be something else. But it does make you feel stronger, more confident, more energetic. But to do that in a social situation and take up that much physical space is actually quite rude. And, it's just like, oh, it's elbows everywhere and, And it just kind of makes you, I don't know. Anyway, we need to move on because we're
23 minutes in. Jesus.
23 minutes in. I know. So, yeah, don't use the superhero pose in public because it can look aggressive and intimidating. And also people will probably laugh at you. Steeple your fingers. If you're sitting at a table and you want to signal confidence, or even if you're standing, you could do the steeple fingers, which I also call the James Bond villain.
Right.
I just got that out of an article.
Now, what?
Well, so you might be like...
This is confidence, is it?
Well, yeah.
Steeple fingers.
Well, I guess so, because it's kind of a strong pose, isn't it? Maybe it's a bit phallic, I don't know. I don't know. Also, touch people. Not like that. But just like a casual touch on the arm or shoulder.
Oh.
Do you not like that? Oh, that's dinner.
That's dinner, really. What?
It can build trust and show empathy. If, you have to kind of read the situation, but, just a gentle touch on the arm or the shoulder, especially if you're trying to comfort somebody.
Yeah, okay. If you're comforting, fine.
But just like a, oh, I have to tell you this thing, or, And I just touched Joe on the shoulder now. He's giving me a look. Okay, so don't touch people ever.
Don't touch engineers.
Yeah. Well, I just said you have to read the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any situation with engineers, don't touch them.
Yeah. And finally...
Or programmers. Definitely don't touch programmers. They really don't like it.
Finally, one of the best pieces of advice I have ever had about speaking in public is to watch a video of myself. And I am passing that advice on to you. Because it's going to be horribly uncomfortable for you to do. Because most people can't stand watching themselves on video or hearing themselves speak.
Mm-hmm.
But... it will improve your public. You will learn a lot, yeah, because you will pick up on your uncomfortable expressions. You'll be like, oh, I was folding my arms there. I don't remember doing that. Or, fidgeting and movements, and listen to yourself as well, because all of those filler words like and 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 right, you'll pick those up as well. And I know I have become a better speaker since I started listening and watching back to myself, because I leave bigger pauses rather than saying and to fill the gap. Just leave a space.
Just be confident enough to leave the space.
Yeah, because apart from anything else, your audience doesn't know what's coming next, and they need a moment to digest what you've just said.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes, by the way, for performances as well. And this, I don't know, probably not many people are going to be like circus performers or pole performers, but it applies to
doing presentations and talking to people and
Yeah. It's, one of the best pieces of advice I received, and I've taken it and applied it to my speaking and teaching as well, is don't rush from position to position in a pole performance or a trapeze performance. Hold it for a little bit longer than feels right, because that gives the audience time to actually take in what you're doing. And even though it seems like a really long time to you, it's not a really long time to the people watching you. It's really, really quick. And that goes for public speaking as well. It sounds like a really, really long pause, but it almost certainly isn't. That was quite a long pause. And on the same, on that same piece of advice, watch yourself, but also watch great speakers as well. Watch people who are really compelling on a stage and study them. Why are they compelling? What is it that they're doing? How can you bring that into your performance? Because ultimately it is all performance, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
We're all born naked, Joe, and the rest is drag.
Right.
It's true.
Okay.
So, takeaway. What's this week's takeaway?
Stand in pubs doing superhero poses and firmly shaking people by the hand.
After drinking gin and tonic.
Right.
Yes. Seriously though, practice all this stuff.
I'd caution you on the whole touching people part, but other than that, go for it.
Yeah, use caution. Usual disclaimer applies. Anything arising from this podcast, if it's negative, has nothing to do with me. If it's positive, I will claim all the credit. No, I won't. I would never do that. So this week's unsung hero is Kenda and Michael.
Hi, Kenda.
Hi, Kenda and Michael, because they have sorted all of my shit out, and it's just been great. So, and coming up next week, we're doing something a little bit different. Off the subject of body language, finally.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
And we're going to be talking about taking responsibility for everything in your life.
Okay.
Don't laugh. Don't laugh knowingly. I know what you're thinking, and it's not that. So, you can pre-register for my brand new book, which was coming out in June, and now I've put a pin in it because I need to sort all of my website and systems out, and that is more urgent. And I feel like a huge weight's been lifted off my shoulder, and there's a lesson for you, listeners. If something is bothering you, then it doesn't have to be done immediately. Anyway, vickyfraser.com/flamingo. You can join Bookaholics Anonymous. We are reading that book that I mentioned earlier, The Heretics by Will Storr.
Good book.
Well, I don't know. I haven't read it yet. But I think it's going to be good.
I've heard good things.
Yeah. You can sign up for the book club at vickyfraser.com/book club.
And that's a free thing.
There's free thing.
There's nothing going on there other than encouragement for you to read a good book that might help you in your business, and then talk about it and think about it.
Yeah. And if you come on the call, I am sometimes going to, offer you a product or something, but, I'm giving you a free thing. So I think that's my prerogative. You don't have to listen to that part of it. And yeah, that's pretty... Oh, if you like this podcast, go to iTunes and subscribe, or wherever you get your podcast from. Leave us a review, please. We love reviews.
We do like reviews.
Or share it. Send people to vickyfraser.com/podcast, and we'll be very grateful.
Excellent.
Be good. If you can't be good, don't get caught. Thanks very much, Joe.
No problem.
We'll be back same time next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Like what you've just heard? Tell your colleagues, tell your friends, send them to www.businessforsuperheroes.com/podcast.